republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll open up the meeting with generic public comments if anyone would like to take advantage of this opportunity because they have to leave. Otherwise, we'll hold the specific comments for the specific applications, but understanding time constraints, you're welcome to say whatever you like here and now, as well as or at the individual time. Anybody? Anyone? Going once? Bueller? Good morning, Counselor. All right.
Good morning. Good morning, Howard.
We will start then.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna start the meeting, just first for your all awareness, because there are only 5 of you here, this morning, I just wanted to make a note about quorum. I did discuss with one of the planning commission members, Commission Member Baker, about recusing himself on 2 matters. The first is the comprehensive solid waste plan, and the second is the county ordinance 2606 related to the text amendment. In both of those instances, Council Planning Commission Member Baker has a potential conflict of interest. The first in the solid waste plan being that he has an entity that is supported by that plan, and in 2606, he has a property under that zoning which could potentially be positively benefited by the text amendment. So he is going to recuse himself from those 2 matters. He will leave the meeting room prior to the consideration of those matters.
The laptop.
No, I'll text her.
If you can sign in to the other laptop, all you have to do is bring up the website. Just sign it in
What you did.
She was doing so good, too.
I know.
She was just.
Can somebody just text her and let her know it's not on her end? Awesome.
You got it?
Yeah.
You got it,
She just recused herself from the whole meeting.
yeah.
It might update. Yeah. Anybody got any good stories?
No, I can repeat.
Stories are on the agenda.
This break was brought to you by the Queens County Office of the Sheriff.
Okay, there you go.
Nice little coffee break.
We thought the meeting wasn't gonna be long enough.
Right.
When you don't have to follow that breaks
schedule that's on that agenda either. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly see we're gonna miss that first one. Takes notes.
There she is.
Okay, she should be able to hear us. We should be good to go.
You're on board, Lindsay?
I can.
Excellent. All right, you were
Yes,
you were just getting started on recusals.
Yes,
Yes,
and what I said was so riveting, it froze the whole system. So I apologize. So, as I was saying, planning commission member Baker is recusing himself from those two matters, which will leave a body of four of you. Are we broken again?
No.
Nope, we can hear you fine.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I popped up. So, that will leave a body of four of you, which is still a quorum. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because any matter on the agenda, in order to be approved, has to have a favorable vote of a majority of you. So that would mean that at least 3 of you would have to vote favorably. If there is a 2-2 tie vote, it's essentially a no vote on any matter. So that's important because in this instance, for those 2 matters, there will only be 2 of you. Last, I wanted to bring up, I did send you all an email. I just wanted to make sure that you all had the opportunity to review it regarding ex parte communications. I know we have a lot on the agenda, so I won't go through it in full detail. But what I discussed with you all was that there may have been some ex parte communications to planning commission members by applicants and or property owners. And I just want to highlight the importance of you all not considering that ex parte communication as it could violate procedural due process. It's also important that you all are fair and impartial on your judgment, and when you judge a certain application or matter on your agenda, it should be related to all the information that is in the public record. So that would be an application, a staff report, and any evidence that is presented at the public hearing, so that both the applicant and any party in opposition or in favor of an application has the full and fair opportunity to consider a potential matter and all of the information relative to it. So I think now would be appropriate if any of you have received ex parte communication, just to disclose that and affirm that you feel that you can still adequately, fairly, and impartially consider an application. And that if you did receive any information that is not part of the public record or not put on the record today, you will not consider any of that information. And if you all have any questions about ex parte communications, I'm happy to answer them.
As Commissioner Tillman, I did have a request from a member before this commission today. It discussed the possibility of a phone call. That phone call never occurred, and we agreed to meet after the meeting today, but there was contact made.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chair, so I received contact as well, just from an applicant relating his, the contents of his application, but I will assure you that my decision today will be based upon evidence provided here in this public hearing.
Great, thank you. And I think, you know, going forward, if any of the planning commission members receive communication from an applicant or property owner specifically related to a matter that's going to be on an upcoming agenda, I know it can be awkward, but that you politely kind of deter any of those conversations and communications from happening, so that you can be fair and impartial and transparent, and make sure that any of the information that you would consider on a matter is done so in a public record.
Lindsay,
Yes.
I also received a phone call. However, I'll be able to be fair and impartial in my judgment.
Great.
Any other questions for council regarding ex parte communications?
Not regarding ex parte communications, but I have a question.
Go ahead.
So in the event of a tie, since this commission only hears text amendments once a year, is that text amendment then
done for a minimum of 12 months?
Yeah, so that text amendment, there would be no vote from the planning commission in favor or against the recommendation. So it would proceed to the commissioners as the track that it's supposed to, but there would be no finding from the planning commission in favor of it.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up on that, please, Lindsay. It's my understanding that the applicant can withdraw or withhold today's hearing on that because of that concern? Can you elaborate on that?
So there is case law supporting that when a full body is not present, that the applicant does have the ability to postpone a public hearing on a matter so that they have the benefit of the full consideration of the body. In this instance, we have a quorum, so it would really be up to the applicant to decide if they wanted to defer, but there's no guarantee that there's going to be different members at the next hearing. What they couldn't do would be present their application, get an unfavorable finding, and then ask for a postponement. It would have to be at the onset of their consideration.
Right, and that request for deferral, to follow up on Commissioner Sylvester's question, that would push them back 1-2 months, however many would be appropriate for them to be reheard?
Yeah, so we'd have to check with staff as far as whether the May agenda is already set and full, but it would generally be at the next meeting. And again, they would take the risk that the same instance
Right.
would occur at the May meeting.
Right, yeah. Oftentimes, that's a 45-day wait rather than a 30, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
understood. Any other questions for Lindsay? Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Counselor. All finished, Lindsay?
I am.
All right.
Sorry.
No problem. Moving on to legislative and legal matter updates.
Okay, it's right here in my face. All right, good morning, Stephanie Jones, Long Range Principal Planner. I have a few legislative updates for you, but pretty quick. Sine Die, which is basically the end of the Maryland legislative session, is Monday. So we'll give an update to you next month of the full gamut of what might impact the county. As well, the text amendment for Gunston 2512, I know it's been a while since we've done anything with that, but they got commission approval, and now the commissioners have set the public hearing, and that'll be Tuesday. So they'll hear the public hearing on that. And that's all the legislative actions that I do, or matters I do have, so.
Excellent. All right, so the next item up for bid is the Queen Anne's County Comprehensive Solid Waste Plan, 26 to 2035. Stephanie and Teddy, you are going to step out. John, or Teddy, you going to be in the back room? We'll send John to get you.
All right, so this morning I have Shane Moore and Connie Tolson from Department of Public Works. What we're looking at is the 2025-2036 Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Plan, and your job essentially is to indicate to the county commissioners if that plan is consistent with our comprehensive plan. So the annotated code requires this plan to be a 10-year plan. Basically, it has to address, like I said, the conformance of the comprehensive plan. In the 2022 plan, there are Chapter 3, which is the Community Facilities and Services chapter, addresses solid waste management. It lists basically your transfer stations, the Midshore Regional Solid Waste Facility, and also curbside collection, and then also includes some goals and recommendations for recycling and also for the Midshore Regional Landfill. Chapter 1 and 2 of the draft solid waste management plan do address the conformance. It also includes the 2022 comprehensive plan and then the status and details, which is what's required to be in the plan. Essentially, your job today is to give a recommendation to the county commissioners. There are some 3 overall major updates to this plan, and I will let Shane and Connie speak to those in specifics, but those big updates are the Midshore agreement, which is Caroline has extended the life of their facility, which will give Queen Anne's County more time to contemplate the location of our facility. Baker Cell 3, That has been included, and then also the removal of the solid waste siting criteria, as requested by MDE, has been removed. So if you have questions, the draft letter is attached. I do know the signature will have to be changed based off our meeting today, but if there's any other comments, please let me know and we can do so. So I'll let them.
Sure. As you may be aware, the MERP program, not the MERP.
I'm
the
sorry,
Midshore
Shane, can you
Regional
introduce
Program.
yourself before we get going?
Shane Moore, Chief Roads Engineers, Department of Public Works.
Thanks.
As you may or may not know, the Midshore Regional Program for the solid waste facility is a four-county program, Kent, Caroline, Queen Anne's, and Talbot. Each county takes a 20-year turn at hosting a solid waste facility, landfill. Midshore 1 was in Talbot County, Midshore 2 was in Caroline County, and Midshore 3 will be in Queen Anne's County. That original target date was 2030. However, there have been a trend downwards of waste disposal. The facility in Caroline County can be extended much longer. As projected now, that's 2042 versus 2030, and Caroline County has agreed to keep that site open and extend the terms of the agreement from 2030 to 2042. As part of that agreement, the county was given a 3-year window to continue to look for a Midshore 3 facility above and beyond with the current selected site. So that's probably the biggest update in the plan altogether. The next update was that RB Baker Cell 3, which is on the west side of Route 18, is planned to be open this summer. And Cell 2 is coming to a closure, and that will facilitate the county's needs and the county's needs for rubble landfill from the citizens of the county, as well as the stuff that we do in the roads division as well, especially trees come down, and we use Bakers for that, a lot for that. And then the last one is the siting criteria. The 2004-2014 solid waste management plan initiated some siting criteria. Maryland Department of Environment approved, reviewed the plan. They wanted that information taken out. They wrote a letter in protest of that information, but we moved forward with the plan with it. This year, we have taken that out per their recommendation. This plan was submitted to them in January of 2026. They have given us their review comments. Those review comments were included in the current set, and that is what is out for public information now. And we have a public hearing on Tuesday, April 14th, with the county commissioners for adoption. So that kind of sums it up.
Connie, do you have
Can
any-
you explain?
I'm asking if
Oh,
No,
Connie, yeah.
you're,
Shane has done a
you're here
great
for
job.
questions? Fair enough. All right.
covered it all.
Sorry, Mr. Tillman, go ahead.
That's all right. What's behind the extension to 2042 in Caroline County? Was there some particular reason that they've agreed to continue?
I don't know the particulars of the agreement. I know when Midshore 1 in Talbot County was coming to a closure in 2010, that there was still capacity. That's a very valuable commodity to have that volume. And Talbot County pushed very hard to close it. It's a 20-year term per the agreement, and they wanted to hold to that. Caroline County was more helpful with having that volume, but I do believe there was a restructuring of the agreement and a cost sharing for using that space. And 2042 is the projected. It could go longer. So in the agreement, it's 2042, but it could extend. They could also expand a little bit, from my understanding, so it could even go farther. And I think it's very valuable to maximize the site to its potential.
So that date is tied to capacity issues as much as anything else?
Projected capacity. yes.
Projected, yeah. Okay, thank you.
And does, Mr. Moore, does that then, and for Queen Anne's County, does that push the closing date back the 20 years, or does that maintain that 2035 sunset for Queen Anne's County?
2035 date, I believe, is the date in which, so the landfill, if Queen Anne's County landfill was, not Queen Anne's County, if the Midshore 3 was going to open in 2030, it's about a 10-year permitting process. So you start the permitting process in roughly 2020. During that 10-year period, there is a point at which that property will change ownership from Queen Anne's County and will become the owner. The owner will be the Maryland Environmental Service as part of the Midshore Regional Program. So they will actually own it. I believe that 2035 is when MES projects they would become the owner for a site that would open in 2042.
But that pushes then the end date back, likely.
20 years, yes.
Yeah,
And-
right.
And then, of course, it could be based on
Beyond
capacity,
that.
you could continue to keep using.
So it's a moving target,
Yes.
but a slow-moving one, and
Yeah.
one that all parties are, involved in.
Yeah, and it's based on projections of the amount of solid waste. And those trends were going up until about the Great Recession, the 2008-ish time period, and they have steadily kind of stayed or gone down a little bit. So that's what we're seeing every year.
Lots of inputs to calculate, right? Any questions for department staff? Go ahead.
Two. Just out of curiosity, why is Talbot County against extending it?
That was before my time. I believe it was just the terms of the agreement, and they felt they had served their term.
Okay. And the other one is, I'm not sure if you really said this in your statement, but am I to believe, are we to believe that maybe the county is looking for a different site than what we currently have? I think, was it just north of Centerville here a little bit?
Yes, Midshore 3 was identified back in the, a study was done in the 1990s, and the commissioners purchased a farm out on Harper Road, just north of Centerville, to be Midshore 3. And that's been identified as the Midshore 3 location in all the solid waste management plans. And that was part of joining the Midshore Regional Program, was to have a valid site. And that site is currently was under permitting, because it had to start in 2020 roughly to get that 10-year process. This window allows the county to step back and look if it wants to move that site, and we have a 3-year window to study and come up with a new site and identify one.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Any other questions for Department of Public Works? All right, I will entertain a recommendation. Actually, there's no public comment, is there? I'm looking at Lindsay and Amy. Is there public comment required for this, Counselor?
No, there's not public comment required for this.
All right, no public comment. I'm looking for a recommendation from the panel. Looking for a favorable recommendation or unfavorable recommendation to be sent to the county commissioners.
Mr. Vice Chair, I make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation on the wastewater management plan to the county commissioners, having determined that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Excellent. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions except for Mr. Baker in the back room. Thank you very much. Appreciate your update this morning. Thank you. Teddy, thank you.
Apparently IT is doing some updates. We might lose Zoom again.
Okay? You understand that, Counselor, and other attendees there?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Out of
Yeah,
our,
I think the other attendee might be frozen.
but that would be on her end likely, right? Not this end. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, moving along, major subdivision 25-07-0475, Bishop's Meadow, Phase 3. Mr. Summers, good morning.
Good morning. Doug Summers, County Planner. As mentioned, this is 25-07-0475, in which Warrington Farm Properties LLC is proposing to create one new residential lot as part of a major subdivision plan. They are requesting preliminary and final major subdivision approval. General locations, the south central portion of the county, just east of Queenstown. It's just south of 301, and the proposed lot is a quarter-mile southeast of the intersection of 301 and Warrington Farm Lane. Tax map 51, parcel 64, is located at 110 Warrington Farm Lane. It's 256 acres by deed. 116 acres are located north of Warrington Farm Lane, and the other 140 acres is located south of Warrington Farm Lane. Both north and southern portions of the deeded parcel are improved by a residence, accessory structures, and an agricultural operation. That northern portion, 116 acres, is zoned agricultural, and south of Warrington Farm Lane, it is dual zoned as suburban estate and suburban residential. Phase 1 of this major subdivision was approved in June of 2005. It was 17 by right cluster lots. That is shown in the white outline here. 11 years later, in 2016, Phase 2 was approved. That was an additional 14 by right cluster lots that is outlined in orange. 10 acres of land outlined here in blue was deed restricted open space to support both phases 1 and 2. This Phase 3 proposes one single large lot at 2.1 acres. Environmental features on the site include a perennial stream along the southwestern, southern, and eastern parcel lines. There are non-tidal wetlands located on the southern portion of the property, shown here outlined in the dashed green. There's 27.5 acres of priority forest area that is in protection to support the first 2 phases. There is possible forest interior dwelling species habitat in the forested areas. There's no 100-year floodplain, steep slopes, and it is not located in a critical area. The proposed lot is located outside of all these natural resource areas on the site. The proposed lot is to be supported by private well and septic. It takes access off of Warrington Farm Lane. To avoid any nonconformities for this subdivision, the existing trailer on site must be removed prior to recordation. And either prior to or within 60 days of recordation, a residential building permit must be filed for the lot. If that permit is not filed, the accessory structures on the lot would have to be removed. And with that, I take any questions or turn it over to the applicant.
Any questions for Doug? Morning, Mr. Kirby.
Morning. Jack Kirby with Kirby and Associates, Inc., P.O. Box 27, Centerville, Maryland. I'm here with Mr. Ethan Whiteside.
Hi, I'm Ethan Whiteside. Address is 120 Warrington Farm Lane. That's Queenstown.
I'm representing Mr. Whiteside and his grandfather, Dave McClement, who is the owner of the existing farm. Mr. Whiteside has the intention of creating this lot to build a house so that he can stay on the farm, on the family farm. The staff's pretty much covered everything. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, but.
Hold on for just a second, make sure we're still squared away with IT.
We're getting there.
We're on thin ice still. You want you want a minute?
I can get her back up once this loads up.
Okay, we'll
Won't
just
take long.
listen to some elevator music. Need like a hold music.
Oh, yeah, elevator.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody's patience in this. Thank you. Gotcha. Come on in. We're in holding pattern here.
Can you hear us, Lindsay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Welcome back again, Counselor. All right, did
Thanks.
you need a brief, or are you comfortable with where you pulled off? Nothing was discussed while you were offline.
I'm comfortable.
All right,
You proceed.
fantastic. The question remains if there's any comments, questions for the applicant and/or staff from the commission. Yes, Mr.
One
Tillman.
quick one. In this, we're asking to receive preliminary and final approval at the same meeting.
Yes.
I have no problem with that. Is that unusual? or is that a fairly routine request?
No, there's 5 criteria that must be met. I think the applicant provided a narrative that should be in your packet that explains that criteria. Staff doesn't need any more time to review this project. That's definitely one of them. It's not unusual. I think the last one we did was Playcheck's Place, went through the same process, so.
Okay, everybody's comfortable with it. Good.
Doug, if you don't mind if I jump in, just so that you all, to bring to your attention, the bylaws do require that if you are going to grant both preliminary and final at the same meeting, that at least 5 of you vote affirmatively, finding that it may be waived, because there is a provision in your bylaws that say both preliminary and final will not be given at the same meeting unless 5 of you vote to waive that requirement. And the 5 conditions that Doug was just referencing were waivers in the public interest, special reasons exist for the departure from policy of the commission, the reasons do not involve to any degree any delay or inaction by the person for whom the policy is waived, the purpose of providing prior notice of action to be taken at a regular meeting will not be unduly compromised, and the Department of Planning and Zoning has certified no further time is required to make any determination required by Queen Anne's County zoning ordinance. So you would have to have 2 separate actions. The first would be 5 of you have to vote favorably to waive the requirement that you do not grant preliminary and final at the same meeting, and then a second action would be to approve preliminary and final.
Right. Thank you for that outline and explanation, Counselor. Is that all questions have been asked and answered from the applicant and staff, is that correct? All right, in that case, I will entertain a motion to.
Is there public comment?
Not yet. Appreciate it, though. I will entertain a motion to discuss or consider providing both preliminary and final subdivision approval simultaneously at today's meeting.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have 5 in agreement, so we are going to proceed, Counselor. Does that satisfy your requirements?
Yeah, so I would clarify in that motion that you are proceeding finding that the 5 factors in the bylaws have been found by the Planning Commission.
I will amend my motion to incorporate council's comments in my motion.
All those in favor still?
Aye.
All 5.
Great.
Silence is approval, I'm taking, Lindsay. Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah,
All right.
It's hard being virtual. I'm trying not to cut you all off. So
No, there's a technical delay, but you're smiling, so and you're still with us, so we'll keep going.
Yes.
All right.
I would cut you off if not.
Fair enough, I appreciate that, and please feel free to do so. All right. Secondly, we have the opportunity to make a motion to move the suggested resolution along.
Mr. Chairman, be it hereby
Sorry.
resolved.
At this point,
You want public
can you
comment?
ask for public comment?
There we go. Any public comment on the request for this applicant, Bishop's Meadow Phase 3, to move ahead? Anyone in the room? Anyone online? Bruce? I have no one. No. All right. Hearing none, seeing none. Mr. Tillman.
Mr. Chairman, be it resolved that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Warrington Farm Properties LLC for major subdivision approval to create 1 new residential lot utilizing the large lot technique and is more particularly described in Department of Planning and Zoning File Sub Number 25-07-0475, hereby finds the subdivision to be consistent with the goals and objectives of the Queen Anne County zoning and subdivision regulations and the 2022 comprehensive plan, hereby grants major subdivision approval to the following conditions, subject to the following conditions. Prior to final signature, any remaining edits and/or documents required by the Document of Public Works, Planning and Zoning, or any other reviewing agency be reviewed and approved. All required signatures must be obtained. All required legal documents must be approved, signed, and recorded prior to obtaining final site plan signatures. The trailer that spans the proposed parcel line between Lot 1 and Lot 33 shall be removed prior to the subdivision recordation. The owner will apply for a residential building permit within 60 days of subdivision recordation and remove all existing structures on the proposed Lot 33 site.
Mr. Tillman, one point of, I think you misspoke and you suggested that we had a document of Public Works. I think that's a Department of Public Works for clarity.
Correct.
All right, there has been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate your coming out today. And let's start with our citizens. Everybody's good. Marilyn, you're okay? All right. We will move on to first citizen-sponsored text amendment application, County Ordinance 26-04.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Lee and Planning Commission members. I'm Mary Ellen Gray. I'm the senior planner here. And this is the first of 7 text amendments, and I understand it's a long list, but we will do our best to be informative yet succinct in our comments. The first one is County Ordinance 2604, Hinked, BB Holdings, LLC, care of Ryan Showalter. The intent of this text amendment, County Ordinance 2604, is to add boat sales and repair and marinas to the list of individual uses or tenant space that can occupy more than 65,000 square feet of gross floor area within the Airport Protection and Kent Island Gateway District. Currently, the APKIG district allows some uses to exceed the 65,000 square foot requirement. That includes airport-related facilities, banquet facilities, conference center, hotel uses, as well as offices. There are also some districts that allow boat sales and repair to exceed the 65,000 square foot requirement. That includes suburban commercial, urban commercial, village center, town center, and the Graysonville Village Commercial Center, Village Commercial. Marinas are also included as an exception in some districts by conditional use. These include suburban commercial, Kent Island suburban commercial, suburban industrial, urban commercial, village center, waterfront village center, as well as town center. Though previously approved when these 2 parcels were in the urban commercial district, 2 parcels in the APKIG district have developments that currently exceed the 65,000 square foot gross floor area requirement. These include the Bay Manor at 214 Pier 1 Road, as well as the Inn at Chesapeake Bay Beach Club and Spa at 180 Pier 1 Road. Should this amendment be adopted, the current provisions, design provisions, as well as the approvals required by the Maryland Aviation Administration and the Federal Aviation Administrations would have to be addressed. The comprehensive plan supports the preservation, promotion, support, and exploration of innovative markets of the maritime industry, as well as the adjacency of the APKIG district to the waterfront. Boat sales and repairs and marinas are supported in the comprehensive plan, whereby the maritime industry supports approximately $80.3 million in economic activity, which is 5% of the county's annual gross county product. During the STAC committee review of this proposal, the Economic Commission offered their support, as well as the airport manager commented that she has no comments or concerns regarding this proposal. Based on the consistency with other commercial zoning districts within the code, the support of the maritime industry in the comprehensive plan, and overall location of the APKIG district, The planning staff recommends that the planning commission send a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners on the proposed amendment to add boat sales and repair and marinas to the list of individual uses or tenant space that the county can occupy more than 65,000 square feet of gross floor area in the APKIG district. That concludes my remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Gray?
Just one.
Go.
So, is there a maximum limitation?
That would depend upon the other design requirements of the district, such as impervious surface requirements, parking, and the actual parcel itself.
Okay.
But mostly site constraints.
So site constraints, that's
I
a
mean,
better way of putting it.
But if there's no site constraints, then there's no limitation. I'm just
certainly-
curious.
Certainly, there'll be height and other requirements, so yes.
I'm talking more about square footage, not so much on height.
So, no, there would not be.
Okay.
But it would just depend upon the size and location of the.
I have one, Ms. Grant. I'm not sure if you're prepared to answer this because you're of your tenure, but is there any backstory or knowledge why that 65,000 is in place and, historically?
So there is some backstory to that.
Just curious to why it is what it is.
You want to go ahead and?
I'll take a stab at it, and then Stephanie can fill in. I understand it was the big box provision back in the early 2000s. Was that a little earlier, somewhere around there? And there was concern to limit the size of some commercial buildings. Just to limit the size.
In this particular district?
And in some commercial districts, is that a fair, yeah. And then that carried forward.
Great. Thank you for that backstory. Appreciate that. Anything else for staff? Mr. Showalter.
Thank you for your time this morning. Good morning. I think that's a very fair summary. I'd like to highlight just a couple of
Can I ask you to introduce yourself first?
I'm sorry. Ryan Showalter, for the record, 100 Northwest Street, Easton, Maryland, and I'm appearing on behalf of Hink BB Holdings. The site that is driving this text amendment is the site that you previously reviewed a site plan for, Hinckley Yachts, working to produce a facility adjacent to the airport as part of that marina that will house wintertime indoor boat storage as well as boat repair. It will have an extensive carpentry, upholstery, electronics shop, but also needs large floor area just to store boats indoors. And this staff report, I think, very adequately runs through the comprehensive plan, which has numerous areas where it supports the maritime industries. As was noted, there are 5 different districts in which boat sales and repairs are excluded from the 65,000 square foot cap. And there's 7 different districts where marinas are excluded from the 65,000 square foot cap. This property was previously zoned urban commercial. It falls in both of those categories. So prior to the imposition of this district, the site that is the driver for this was zoned urban commercial, and boat sales and repair and marinas could exceed 65,000 square feet. And I understand that this text amendment is not parcel specific, but the APKIG zoning district is nevertheless very small and a constrained area. And so we believe this text amendment really will only have one practical parcel that it benefits, and that's the purpose for this request. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the applicant? I have one, if you don't mind. We heard no comment from the airport manager. Are there any concerns or construction equipment that have been thoroughly vetted with the airport manager? Cranes, I'm thinking, to come in for this construction?
So there's been significant coordination with the airport. As you may recall some discussion before, we're still working through the FAA process that we discussed and getting coordination there. There are height standards that are applicable. One of the interesting dynamics between the FAA and the Maryland Aviation Administration is that the FAA has a notification process, and they evaluate any proposed construction, whether that's temporary cranes or permanent height of structures, and they only deal with issues that they view as obstructions to airport safety. The MAA has applies a similar standard, but basically anything that penetrates a defined elevation, they identify as something that is restricted, whether or not it interferes with airport safety. So the county commissioners recently adopted a process to allow a variance from MAA's standards. The FAA has determined that no proposed construction will constitute an obstruction to the safety of the airport. The county commissioners are working through a process that would require lights. So there'd be a light on the tallest point of the building, and any cranes would have temporary construction activity, cranes, excavators that exceed those height limits would have flagging and lighting.
Okay. I figured somebody crossed that
Yep.
T and dotted that I.
Checked a
Just
lot of
wanted to
those
make sure. Okay.
boxes.
Any other questions for Mr. Showalter? All right, hearing none. We'll open the floor up for public comment on 2604, KPIG FAR, floor area ratio. Discussion. Bruce, anyone on call? No one online. All right, closing public comment. I will open up the floor for a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, having considered testimony presented, the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding citizen-sponsored text amendment 2604 to amend section 18.1-34 Delta by adding boat sales and repair marinas to the list of individual users or tenant space that can occupy more than 65,000 square feet gross floor area in the APKIG district. The Planning Commission provides the following findings. This recommendation does include consistency with Maryland Section 18-1 of the Maryland Code annotated land use and the comprehensive plan. And as described in staff report dated April 9th, 2026, recommends a favorable vote. Period.
All right, there's a motion. Counselor, does that satisfy you're smiling? You're good? All right.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, no problem. There's been a motion. Do we have a second? Second. There's a second by Mr. Sylvester. All those in favor, or excuse me, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposition, unanimous. Congratulations,
Thank you
Mr.
for your time.
Showalter. Thank you for coming in. You guys want to do one more and take a break?
Yeah, I'm
Does
good.
that work? Sure. All right, we'll keep going one more. 2605, 3Cs LLC.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a couple of questions before staff gets started with their report.
Only
behalf
if
of this
they're
applicant.
relevant prior to staff giving their report.
Yes, sir, they are.
Please do.
So in light of the limitation of 5 members today and the staff report received by the applicant 2 days ago, there is a preference to defer this to your next meeting in the hope that there are more attendees on from the Planning Commission. I do, however, want to ask and confirm that prior to the hearing, interested parties and citizens would still have the opportunity to submit exhibits and testimony in written form and at the next meeting.
I would defer to council for that. Lindsay?
Yeah, so if the preference from the Planning Commission is to vote to defer consideration of this particular matter on the agenda, the same processes would be used going forward, being placed on the agenda. So it would kind of start over as far as the staff report using, I'm sure they would use the same staff report, but if public had any comments or the applicant had any additional comments, they would have to be submitted within the time frame that is consistent with when a matter goes on an agenda. The record would not be closed because you all haven't considered it at this point.
Fair enough. Anything to add? Amy? Anything to add? No. All right. Based on the applicant's request, is there a motion to defer this conversation to the next available, or should we just, what is it, a 35 or 40-day wait? Do we know?
I'm not sure as far as staff, but I do want to make note that the Queen Anne's County zoning ordinance does require consideration by the planning commission within 90 days from the date it receives the proposal. So I'm not sure, I know that the submittal was in February. Is there, maybe Amy knows or staff knows when the application was submitted? I think I have it here in front of me, 2/10/26. We're coming up on 60 days.
The May agenda will be set on April 30th.
When's the date of the meeting?
And to confirm with council, that 90 days is from the date that the planning commission received the application, correct? Not the date of application to the county, but the date that the planning commission received it?
That's how we've always applied it, at the date in which the date in which the county commissioners convey it to the planning commission. So that'd be the February 24th date, I think.
Okay, yes.
So we should be 3 months out from that. We should be okay, date-wise.
With the May date.
Yeah.
So,
And there is the opportunity that the county commissioners can grant an extension on that 90-day, but it sounds like it's not necessary at this point because we can still reach the May date, assuming that there was already planning to be a meeting in May.
okay. May suffice?
Yes, sir.
Does that suit the county as well? May meeting? I don't know the agenda for the May meeting. Are we? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a reason as to why it couldn't.
Okay. And if for some reason, Ms. Jones, something comes up, the county will reach out to the applicant to come to a conclusion of mutual agreement? Excellent. All right, do we have a motion to defer this hearing on 3Cs LLC to the May 2026 meeting of the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move the citizen-sponsored text amendment number 2605 to the May meeting of 2026.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? We'll see you in 30 days, gentlemen. All right, let's take, please, how about we come back at 9:45, about 6 minutes. To defer?
Yes, sir.
It is awful hot back here.
As soon as you walk in there, it's a strange thing.
You get a lot of free water.
You'd need it.
It looks like she may have just turned her camera off while
Okay,
she's waiting.
gotcha.
Are we ready to start?
We're gonna wait for Amy another minute or so.
Okay, no problem.
Out of here, we're just gonna punt till next month. All right. All right, I'd like to bring back into session the Planning Commission meeting for April 9. County Ordinance 26-06, Deep W LLC, and staff. But Mr. Council has asked to go first, applicant has asked to go first. Tongue won't work. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Sure. Brenda
you
Mulaney with
identify yourself
McAllister,
again?
Detar, Showalter, and
Get him to
Walker,
identify
100
himself,
Northwest
yeah.
Street.
I'm sorry, you reintroduce yourself, please, for us, thanks.
Yes, sir. Brenda Mulaney with McAllister, Detar, Showalter, and Walker, 100 Northwest Street, East of Maryland, here on behalf of Chesapeake Boat Lift LLC, Chesapeake Family Flooring, and The Mill. On behalf of the applicants for this text amendment, in light of the composition of the Planning Commission and Mr. Baker's recusal, we would ask that this also be deferred to the May Planning Commission agenda and be able to appear in front of you with hopefully more Planning Commission members at that time.
Can do. Any questions of applicant? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to defer till the May meeting, 2606.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate
Thank you all
it.
for your time. See you next month.
Yep, indeed. All right. Good?
Sorry, no, I missed the deferrals.
Oh, yep, nope, all good. All right, moving along, County Ordinance 2607, Lot 3 LLC. Mr. Stevens is not here. Is he out in the hall, perhaps?
I have not seen him,
I
actually.
haven't seen him either. Come on in. Yeah.
You Lot 3, Jody?
Yeah, that was probably a mistake on my part with Joe not being here.
Oh, so he's not here, coming, okay.
No, so I guess you got me.
All right, Lord. I will need,
This
Lindsay,
ought to
are
be
we
quick.
okay with an applicant representing themselves without counsel, or is that something that's frowned upon?
No, I mean, it's the applicant's burden, so if they want to proceed without counsel, that's their prerogative.
Sorry, Joe's out of town and, with what I had going on, I just,
Okay, let's start with staff, Jody, and then we'll turn it over to you and your side gig as a lawyer.
Very good.
May I say something?
Sure.
Should Mr. Schultz be offered the opportunity to defer, or can he defer?
He has chosen to
I think
move on, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I mean, deferring's not gonna change anything, I don't think, but except
That's
get a
fine, I
big
just-
bill from Joe.
Fair enough. Mary Ellen, I believe
Okay.
you're lead staff?
Yes, sir. Yes, Vice Chairman.
Floor is yours.
Okay, good morning again, Vice Chairman Lee and Planning Commissioners. Mary Ellen Gray, Senior Planner. I'm here to present County Ordinance 2607, Lot 3, care of Joe Stevens and Jody Schultz. The intent of this text amendment is to increase the by right maximum non-residential floor area ratio, known as FAR, from 30% to 40% within the waterfront village center, known as the WVC district, and remove the bonus standard that allows for a floor area ratio of 40%. The proposed change in FAR to 40% is consistent with many other zoning districts, commercial zoning districts in Queen Anne's County, the town center, urban commercial, suburban industrial, light industrial highway service, suburban industrial business employment, and airport protection in Kent Island Gateway all have 40% FARs, and the Graysonville Neighborhood Commercial and Graysonville Gateway and Medical Center all have both have 50% FARs. FAR of 50%. with the proposed amendment, deletion, which deletes the 40% FAR bonus standard, which requires 50% of the first floor to be raised for parking, all floodplain standards would need to be met. The additional bonus standard, there is an additional bonus standards in the code, which allows for the Planning Commission to grant a specified bonus of up to 50%, and that would continue to prevail. The comprehensive plan does not directly address FAR and bonus provisions in the WPC district, but supports economic development. The 2022 Kent Narrows Community Plan supports the evaluation of floor area ratio standards and review of the bonus standards, and also encourages the preservation of water viewscapes. Through the stack review process, the Economic Development Commission and the Kent Narrows Development Foundation supports this amendment. Based on the minimal increase, the fact that many commercial districts allow for the 40% FAR by right, consistency with both the Kent Narrows Community Plan and the County Comprehensive Plan, an existing bonus standard, the planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission send a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners on the proposed amendment to increase the by right maximum non-residential floor area ratio from 30% to 40%, or 0.3 to 0.4, how it is in the code, and remove the bonus standard that allows for a floor area ratio of 0.4. Further, in order to clarify the proposed amendment, the planning staff recommends that this clause of bracket 2 and the term "and" be deleted from this code provision 18.1-26 and 1A. And that's articulated in the staff report. And that concludes my comments, Vice Chairman Lee.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Mary Ellen? Is that a hand raise? No. Oh, sorry. Just one point of clarification, and Ms. Gray read appropriately. However, in the staff report, there are several references to an increase of a 10% in FAR, and it is not. Right? 10% of 30 is 3, so it's a 33 1/3% increase in FAR to go from 30 to 40. Numerically, it's 10%. So you spoke correctly, and some places in the staff report you appropriately say go from 0.3 to 0.4, but mathematically, it is not a 10% increase in floor area.
You are correct. Your math is not my strong suit.
No, quite all right.
I'm a planner.
It's
Not an engineer,
it's not de
but thank
minimis,
you.
but
Thank you for the
it's important to
clarification.
point out that it's not a 10% increase. It's a 33% increase.
Thank you, sir.
But you spoke well, and in other places, it's correctly noted to go from 0.3 to 0.4 without the 10% nomenclature. All right, everybody clear? Everybody happy? Everybody good? Any other questions for Mary Ellen? Excellent. Mr. Schultz, please introduce yourself.
Jody Schultz, Chester, here representing Lot 3 LLC. I don't have much to add. It's, I think, fairly simple. I know it has been suggested, I think in the last two comp plans, that the Kent Narrows 30% by right floor area be increased to be more consistent with most of the other zoning jurisdictions and areas in the county to 0.4. If you have some specific questions, but, you know, she laid it out pretty good. It's not, and it's just in the WVC, obviously, so I specifically don't have any projects currently that it would affect, so it affects the whole WVC.
Right, which is Kent Narrows.
Which is Kent Narrows, correct. So, like I said, I don't have a dog in the fight currently or nothing really planned, but it's something I think that's needed, because then you have to go through this bonus density, complicated process that you've all been a part of. That's so I think this helps just clean that up a little bit. If you have
Any
some
questions? Any questions for the applicant?
Just curious, Mr. Schultz, has this ever prevented you from doing anything in the past?
No, because right now you have, it's at 30%. So if you exceed the 30%, there's the provision in the WVC that allows you to bonus density up. And that's a whole nother door to open per se. Then you have to go through, what are you offering to get more of a percentage? And rarely do you get up to 40, because your parking usually restricts what you're doing. So you may get up to 32%, 33%. Rarely do you get really up to 40% because of the parking restrictions, the stormwater restrictions. It kind of, but it's not unusual to get up to 32 or 33%. But it still kicks you into that bonus density, and that's a very, I think staff will agree, that's something that's even been in the comp plan, just been trying to eliminate that process, because it's not real, it's ambiguous in a lot of ways on what do you give for what do you get type of thing.
Any other questions for Mr. Schultz or staff? All right, we'll open up the floor for public comment if there is any. I don't have anybody signed up. Anybody online? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll close public comment, and I will open up the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, be it resolved that the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding citizen-sponsored text amendment number 26-07 to amend 18.1-25 by increasing the by right maximum non-residential floor area ratio from 0.30 to 0.40 and removing the bonus standard that allows floor area of 0.40 in the WVC district, with proposed recommended staff changes as articulated in the staff report. The Planning Commission provides the following findings: that this is consistent with the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Section 4-102, which allows the legislative body to regulate the percentage of a lot that may be occupied and the size of buildings to promote health, safety, and general welfare of the community, and is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion passes. Mr. Schultz, thank you.
But the next one too, so.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. All right, we will move on. County Ordinance 2608, Lot 3 LLC. Mary Ellen, floor is yours.
Very good. Mary Ellen Gray, Senior Planner. The intent of 2608 is to add additional provisions to allow commercial apartments within the Waterfront Village Center District, the WVC, to locate the commercial apartment dwelling unit on any same floor, including the first floor. According to our code, Chapter 18, Appendix A, a commercial apartment is defined as a dwelling unit located above the first floor of a commercial building. Commercial apartments include supplemental use standards that do not require commercial apartments to be included in the first floor area calculations for a commercial building, as well as maximum building height, outdoor balconies and patios, and landscaping requirements. All these standards will remain applicable under the proposed amendment. Commercial apartments are permitted throughout multiple other districts, but they do not include the specification that a dwelling unit may be proposed on any same floor. All other districts require the dwelling units to be placed above the commercial. The proposed amendment is applicable solely within the WVC district alone. Similar to the proposed amendment, first floor apartments are another use that requires a dwelling unit on the first floor of a commercial building and additional floors above the commercial, additional floors above to be commercial. First floor apartments are permitted in some zoning districts, which include Town Center, Stevensville Historic Village Center, as well as Graysonville Village Commercial. And first floor apartments are permitted in suburban commercial, Kent Island Commercial, Urban Commercial, and Village Center as conditional use. The proposed amendment would allow a commercial apartment on any same floor, including the first floor. But But the design guidelines, parking requirements, as well as supplemental use standards that I just described, as well as all other applicable code requirements would still prevail. The comprehensive plan and the 2022 Kent Narrows Community Plan support the facilitation of orderly mixed-use commercial, light industrial, marine-oriented, and seafood industry-oriented uses at Kent Narrows. The Economic Development Commission, as well as the Kent Narrows Development Foundation, support this proposed amendment. Based on the intent of the WVC district to provide flexibility and orientation to the water, similar uses permitted in other districts, including first-floor apartments, the keeping of residential dwelling units on any same floor, and consistency with both the Kent Narrows Community Plan and the County Comprehensive Plan, the planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission send a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners on the proposed amendment to add additional provisions to allow commercial apartments within the waterfront village center to locate commercial apartment dwelling on units on any same floor. Concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Gray? All right, Mr. Schultz.
Good morning again, Jody Schultz, Chester with Lot 3 LLC. The commercial apartments definition is first floor commercial apartments, which allows you to do commercial use on the first floor. And then you're allowed apartments above that. So it's
Residential.
Residential apartments above that. Is this why I should have Joe here? Right?
You're doing fine.
The Kent Narrows is a little bit unique. I've had discussions with some people that want to rent commercial space, but they said, we don't want to be on the bottom floor. We want to be up top where the view is. And Kent Narrows is very unique in that situation where there's phenomenal views. So we introduced this text amendment, talked with staff about it, that as long as the intent of a whole floor is commercial and the rest is apartments, it shouldn't matter whether it's on the first floor, the commercial, or whether it's on the second floor or the third floor, if there is a third floor. And it's just an option for leasing space. Space is tough to lease now in the market now. So again, we had a group that was interested in commercial space, but they said, we want to be up here. And I said, well, you got to be down here. And they said, well, we want the view. And that kind of led into meeting with staff and saying, can we just, as long as the intent is the same, and it's a whole floor of commercial use, it should be irrelevant where the apartments are. And it's just in the WVC, because that's where the opportunity for the view is up there, not Chester or UC, any other zoning district, just in the Kent Narrows. So that's kind of how we got here to this text amendment. Everybody seemed to be okay with it. EDC was fine with it. The Kent Narrows Foundation was fine with it. Staff was fine with it. So, unless you have some questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schultz?
To be clear, it doesn't dictate that commercial is on floors 2 and above. It just says that wherever the commercial is, whatever floor commercial is, that entire floor is commercial.
Correct, right.
So can you have residential, commercial, and residential if you have a 3-floor building?
You mean residential, commercial, residential?
Yes.
You could, I guess, as long as the whole floor, where the intent is, keep the way it is, because we support that. We want commercial use, we want commercial, we just don't want strictly residential. We want
Or
the mix in
confined to
Kent
any
Narrows.
particular floor, right, the base floor typically.
Right. But hey, give us the opportunity if somebody wants to rent the top floor and not the bottom floor because of the view, then, maybe we should have that opportunity to rent, because it's tough renting commercial space now. So we don't want to do strictly commercial apartment, we don't want to do strictly just apartments. We want the mixed use. So it doesn't change that, it just changes kind of where you put it, the ability to put it up or keep it where it is, type of thing.
And we're talking 3 floors because that's the height limitation in that district, right?
What's 40?
45 or something.
45 feet,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you can bonus up to.
Could bonus up to
I think it's
60. Yes.
Maybe. That's a bonus provision that come before you.
We're just using these 1, 2, 3 floors.
Right.
Because that's typically what's confined to that
Correct.
district. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, with deference to the fine views in Kent Island, you know, I know there are people that like fine views of soybean fields as well. It seems to me that, and I'm not particularly concerned about this, we are opening ourselves to the possibility that people would like to do this in other districts. I don't know if the commission has concern about that or not. I said, I'm not particularly concerned, as long as it's on a floor-by-floor basis. When I first read it, I have to admit, I misunderstood and thought you'd have a mixture on any given floor. And that doesn't seem to make sense, but, so I don't know if anybody else has any opinions about it or not.
It came to mind when Mr. Schultz was going through his testimony. Does staff have any feedback or comments on that?
Well, this provision is just limited to the WPC district,
Right.
yes. Mhm.
That's understood, but sometimes when you open the floodgates.
Ah, I see.
And, you know, and as I say, in this situation, I'm not particularly concerned. I don't think it's something that we'd worry about in other districts all that much. But I think it's important to note that it does open us up to that possibility.
Well, there is the provision currently that the first floor apartments are allowed, that you can have, first floor commercial apartments, thank you.
Sorry.
That use, that you have apartments on the first floor and then commercial above. So there is that use that's currently allowed in our ordinance, if that helps.
Guys, thank you.
All right. Anything else from? All right. Any public comment? Nobody online? Nobody on my sheet? Anybody in the gallery? Seeing none, hearing none. Public comment is closed. I will open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, having considered the testimony presented and having reviewed the findings in the staff report, be it hereby resolved, the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding citizen-sponsored text amendment 26-08 to amend 18-1-26F4 district to locate the commercial apartment dwelling unit on any same floor. Planning Commission finds this text amendment is consistent with the zoning and subdivision regulations, consistent with the annotated Code of Maryland land use article, consistent with the comprehensive plan, and I'd like to incorporate the findings from the staff report into my motion.
Fantastic. However, can I get you to reread the sentence? You skipped a sentence. You went from 18-1-26F4.
Okay.
You skipped the by adding line.
Okay.
And went straight to district.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion to read, quote, to amend 18-1-26.F4 by adding additional provisions to allow commercial apartments within the Waterfront Village Center, WVC, district to locate the commercial apartment dwelling unit on any same floor.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, no abstentions. Motion carries.
Thank you very
Congratulations,
much.
Mr. Schultz.
Again, I
Thank you for-
apologize for Joe not.
No apologies. Send him your,
Enjoy the view.
send him your invoice.
Good luck with that one.
All right. Moving along, County Ordinance 26-09, Thompson Farms LLC. Stephanie's on point now.
All right, so
Good morning.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
I'm sorry.
You're good? Okay. So 2609 is to amend the transfer of development rights program to allow the transfer of parcel, which is designated as open space, to be able to be administratively subdivided to accommodate lot line adjustments, but not to allow reconfiguration or the creation of new lots. So the transfer of parcel is essentially the parcel in which development rights are lifted through the Transfer Development Rights Program. And then that acreage is designated as open space, and that is restricted to uses that are strictly permitted as agricultural uses and listed in the code at 18-1-12. So essentially this is only within your Ag and CS district where these development rights are lifted. Let's see. So this provision that essentially does not allow the transfer of parcel to be subdivided has been in the code since 1987, and essentially requires soils to be designated, specific soils, and they have to meet a soils criteria to be designated as open space. Through this code provision change, it will require the open space to stay on that same acreage. It will not be able to be reconfigured or moved around or changed on the parcel location, but it does allow a property owner to move a lot line, essentially to split the open space parcel in order for another property owner to purchase the open space parcel. Basically, we do not see much transfer development rights, and you do not see much program of that since the septic bill in 2012. So the current code is not really utilized, but this is a change in order which would allow administrative subdivisions. The soil conservation did indicate that as long as there's no reconfiguration, they do not have any comments. The economic development indicated that because it's not really in their purview, they were not providing a comment based on that. The comprehensive plan does speak to the TDR program, and also obviously these open space areas are captured as acres of conservation in the county. And essentially the comprehensive plan does address analyzing the TDR program, how it exists today. So based on, I know the fact that these TDR parcels, where the open space is indicated, it could then reside on multiple parcels, whereas now they usually reside all in the same parcel, but will allow multiple parcel owners. It will not allow the property owner that is purchasing that area to change the uses that are permitted on the property. So they're still restricted to everything that's encumbered, everything that was in the easement as the previous property owner. So based on that, staff is giving a favorable recommendation, specifically to the fact that reconfiguration is not permitted and that there's continued support for the agricultural lands, and also the fact that the comprehensive plan, does outline the intent of that staying preservation lands in the code. So I know this is a little different one. Jeff did submit, this is the one you might recall from last year. So that one did include reconfiguration, but now it's been amended to not include reconfiguration.
Questions for Ms. Jones? Is that in your report?
Yep.
Any questions? Mr. Thompson?
Yes, Jeffrey Thompson, 124 North Commerce Street, Centerville, Maryland. I'm here representing myself on behalf of my family, and Shirley Schaefer. Last year when we got into this, you were interested in the subdivision piece, and you asked to see examples, and then at the end of the hearing it kind of got, in a different stead. At any rate, I have an example of our personal farm that I want to show you and what we had intended to be able to do. That we intended to be able to do at the time we subdivided it, probably 25 years ago. I'll wait until everybody has a copy.
As counsel, do you have a copy of this that's being passed around?
She does not.
No, she doesn't.
Does not? Okay.
No.
Are you okay with that?
What,
Is there some way I can show it to her?
Short of emailing it to her.
Send it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Okay.
the burden's
Well, let me
on,
explain it.
The burden's on you. I'm
No,
just
that's-
asking
that-
counsel if she's
that-
fine not having the
Okay.
information that we have in front of us, and I'll hold off Mr. Thompson if I can.
Amy, take a
Take a picture of it and
Sure.
send it? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
just so I can have an understanding of what you're looking at.
Jeff, can I still get a copy as well.
That would also help.
Yeah, we need it for the record, the file.
You can have my copy.
Pulling out all the bells and whistles
Okay.
of technology today, aren't we?
Jeff, can I get a copy?
Oh, yeah.
One didn't make it over here.
Got it.
I was expecting 7 members, so I have a lot of copies.
Thank you.
Of course, we're not here about any specific property. It's just, I know last year, you wanted to see, you know, how it might affect a particular property or a group of properties, and I can describe it from this, but give you other examples using this as to how being able to subdivide the TDRs in this case makes sense. When this farm was originally 2 farms, the Thompson Farm and what is now Barry Waterman's farm, most of this was Barry Waterman's farm. My father owned it with 2 other people. We owned the adjoining farm. They wanted to sell, my father did not, so we needed to do an admin. So we wanted to cut the line down the road. I mean, you can see the road coming in, which is a hedgerows now goes along it. The hedgerow goes all the way back. And then what's to the north of the red line is all TDR open space. All right, and just for informational purposes, both our farm and Mr. Waterman's farm, everything else on that side of Sparks Mill Road is actually in rural legacy, so it's all deed restricted. We wanted to run this line straight, this red line here, straight back. You'll see there's an implement shed, there's a red line going back toward the creek. We wanted that line to be able to go straight back. You'll see what's marked on this is map 21, parcel 31. That is actually owned by Mr. Waterman, not by us. That is not a separate parcel. It's just I created a perpetual easement when we were unable to subdivide it where we wanted to subdivide and add this to us, which made sense. I created a perpetual easement. We have all the beneficial right and use of that property. It's been that way 25 years. First it was with Lou Schaefer, now it's Barry Waterman. Everybody has agreed it's the right thing to do. Mr. Waterman actually appeared at the county commissioner meeting last year. I didn't ask him, he just happened to be in the room and got up and testified, we should really get this straight, and we should. It shouldn't be a separate parcel, but it's shown that way. The reason that makes sense is that's not just a branch. I had Mr. Kirby go ahead and show on a topography scale, the base of that branch is at level 12. The top of that is at level 50. It's a 27-foot drop, 29-foot drop, from top to bottom.
The base of what branch?
This branch right here, we wanted to cut the line straight through.
Yeah, okay, I can see now, thanks, that's all.
Because it made sense to us to do it down the center of this branch, because we've owned those farms for well over 50 years. None of us would ever dare go into that branch. I mean, the fall, you can imagine, it's as high as a 2-story building. It's not that wide, and it drops right straight down, and it's heavily brushed and treed. So when you're standing to the edge of it, you have no idea it drops off 29 feet, but it does. At any rate, what's being proposed is to be able to subdivide, not reconfigure, not change the restrictions, not change anything. Attached to the staff report, you also have what's shown as the environmental areas in Queen Anne's County. That will not change, because the only thing's changing is ownership, not the location, not the restrictions applicable to the underlying land, only who owns it. And really, land use doesn't have to do with who owns it. And the point is, whether it's this plat, or let's just say instead of that deep ditch, we had a perennial stream running all the way across the farm, and it bisected non-contiguous development or TDRs. You ought to be able to subdivide where it makes common sense to subdivide. If we had a perennial stream running here, we would have in all likelihood made that the breaking point, because it made common sense to do it. And that's all we're trying to do. We ran it down the road, we're trying to bisect that. And again, this is just an example. It's not about our farm. It could be a hedgerow running through a perennial stream. It could be ditches. It could be hedgerow. It could be anything. But when adjoining owners are trying to decide where they might draw a line, they want to do it based on common sense, not where a non-contiguous or a TDR line might be drawn. And that's the only point I'm trying to make. So it's not about this. It's just about let's use common sense when we're cutting a line. And if we're not doing any offense to the covenant itself, to the open space, what difference does it make? And you're gonna hear from me also on the non-contiguous. When you think about it, whether it's non-contiguous or it's open space, it's all just open space, same restrictions, same covenants. If you're not moving it, you're not affecting it, and all you're doing is cutting a line where two different people have to abide by those same covenants and restrictions, what difference does it make? So that's the point I'm trying to make, unless you have any questions.
Questions for the applicant?
Can you try to describe to me again, it's a little slower,
Okay.
these folks, just what do you, in layman's terms, something short, not so long. What are you
Okay.
trying to accomplish
Okay.
here? What are you trying to accomplish? For you and Barry, I assume?
Well, us and Mrs. Schaefer's also on here. She'd like to subdivide her property at Pioneer Point. So in her case, what we'd like to do is draw the line along the farm field. So there's actual, when you get out of the woods, have you been out to Schaefer's? When you get out of the woods, it's all.
But you're digressing, you're moving from the, what are you trying to do here?
Jeff,
You
I think
trying to
you
get
need-
your
Trying to
part?
be able to subdivide open space, TDRs, non-contiguous, whatever, to allow the division between two adjoining farm properties, because that's what you've got in open space. So the two adjoining properties can cut a line where it makes sense to cut the line, and not necessarily where the TDR line is or where the non-contiguous line is.
So I think in even more broad terms, you have a property that has a TDR that's applied to it. Right now, the way the code is written, they can't do anything within that TDR space. What this would allow would be that you could take the TDR and essentially divide it in half so that part of it is now a new or a recreated lot, as long as the overall original shape of the TDR doesn't change. A part of it can then be part of lot 2 instead of the original lot 1, but the overall shape of it and size of it can't change. It's just now on a new lot.
Just trying to clean up the ownership and the map and the boundaries.
Correct.
Right.
And if you look,
That's all.
and if you look, there's an
Seriously.
attachment to the staff report that shows all the environmental properties. None of that changes. Not one iota if anybody subdivides, because nothing's changed with regard to the location or the restriction.
And staff has no issues?
So due to the fact that they can't reconfigure the open space and change essentially the soils that were bound within that easement, essentially that, the concern, there's no concern. The fact is that all they can do is change the property owner of the open space, is the changes that are.
So the answer is, no, we have no.
No
concerns.
concern, yeah. So-
That's what I was, thanks, Dave.
And the
Thanks,
fact
Dave.
that they can't change the
Yeah,
uses
I
that
got
are
you.
still,
Yeah.
the uses that are permitted.
Any other questions for Mr. Thompson? All right, I will open up the floor for public comment. I have two folks listed, Mr. Falstad, Mr. Pippin.
You want 3 minutes, Tom?
I'm not worried about it. Yep.
Sorry about that. Jay Falstad, Queen Anne's Conservation Association. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I understand what Mr. Thompson is doing. It makes sense to me, but I still urge caution, just as I urged caution last year. And here's why. The NCD, TDR, and sliding scale techniques all represent an agreement that was done long ago with the landowner and with the county. It is a contract. And so there are encumbrances to those properties which all of the landowners understood when they either owned the land or sold the land, bought the land, whatever. If you allow this text amendment to go through for Mr. Thompson, then you must allow it, all 57 landowners that are part of the TDR program, to also be eligible for this. And there could be unintended consequences there. Additionally, any neighboring landowner that either bought property, and if they want to challenge any of this, you are unfairly opening the door to force them to have to go to the Board of Appeals and contest it, pay the $1,000 fine and raise an objection. And so it just seems to me like you're opening up a can of worms that does not need to be opened. I thought Mr. Sylvester's question was a good one. What is the ultimate aim here? The ultimate aim is not clear. And for those reasons, I would urge that you not approve this text amendment. Finally, I'll just end with this. QACA is now a landowner in Queen Anne's County. We're about to become a landowner again for another parcel. If I were to come forward asking for this type of accommodation on encumbered land, given the composition of this board, I would doubt that you'd give it to me. And so I'm just asking for a matter of fairness. These landowners under these programs, understanding what the encumbrances were, they should not be adjusted. And my comment's going to be similar to the next one, but with that, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Joe Pippin.
Good morning, Board. My name is Joe Pippin, Queen Anne's County Soil Conservation District. I handle the easements with the county, MALF, Rural Legacy, and the CREP easements. The only comment I have is that TDRs are considered preserved land. We do count them within the county towards our total numbers. The key word here is reconfigure, as in Mr. Thompson's testimony this morning and Ms. Stephanie Jones's staff report. They did mention that there will be no reconfiguring. With that being said, I have no issues with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the gallery? Anyone, nobody online? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any other?
Just one of the comments, Mr. Yeah. On the encumbrance, there is no change on the encumbrance. That's the whole point of doing what we're doing. It's still encumbered exactly the way it was encumbered before, exact parcel, exact encumbrance. There is no change in the encumbrance. So, you know, okay.
I have a question for you, Stephanie, is that based on Mr. Falstad's comments, does staff have concerns that this could come back for these other parcels that fit the similar description in the county, that folks are going to, you know, the precedent that this sets? We've talked about this with other applications in the past. Does staff foresee that being burdensome to the county and the staff?
So the TDR program, those, the lifted parcels, essentially those are all ag and CS districts. This change in the code would be applicable to the entirety of all the TDR lifting areas. So it could be any of those parcels could come in with an administrative subdivision, go through the process. All deed restrictions would still apply. Uses would not be able to be added or changed. They're subject to 18-1-12 in the code. So I don't, yes, others could come in and apply just like anybody else could, but they could only be, it would be in the ag and CS where that would occur, and be the TDR where those properties are open space and lifted. Those rights were lifted. But it could be any of them, yes.
Right. It's certainly a possibility, as,
yes.
as Mr. Falstad suggested.
But again, the total number of acres of preserved and encumbered land would not change.
Correct.
Nothing changes except on paper.
Correct.
And on the lot line.
Yeah.
With
And it
respect
would-
to the lot line.
Could become multiple owners.
But yes.
But at that point in time,
But
yes,
all
it
the
would still be
restrictions are still in place. All
Yes,
the
in the same exact acres.
encumbrances are still in place.
Yes.
Perhaps an oversimplification, but this will permit fractional ownership of TDR land?
Yes.
That's all it will do?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And to that, Mr. Falstad, I think your point is made about fairness and equity across the board. And I think there's precedent now. If you were to come back in with your newly described properties, I would expect and hope that this board would treat you fairly under the same reading and interpretation that we have here. Counselor, are you okay with everything thus far?
Yep.
Fantastic. All right. Any other public comment? All right, I will close public comment. Any other discussion from the panel? Hearing none, seeing none, I will open the floor for a resolution. For 2609.
Mr. Vice Chair, having considered the testimony presented and having reviewed the findings outlined in the staff report, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to amend 18-1-1-101 and 104 transferable development rights standards to allow a transfer parcel which is designated as open space following the conveyance of development rights to be subdivided through the administrative subdivision process to accommodate lot line adjustments, but not to be reconfigured or for the creation of a new lot. I'll further find that it is consistent with zoning and subdivision regulations, consistent with the land use article of the annotated Code of Maryland, consistent with the comprehensive plan, and I'd like to incorporate findings from the staff report into my motion.
Excellent. There's been a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, motion carries. Rinse, wash, repeat. County Ordinance 2610. The Calvin Gray, Queen Anne's Farm and Land LLC. Ms. Jones, you're still on point.
Yep. So this amendment, is specific to the non-contiguous development program, is to allow non-contiguous and developed parcels, which are designated as open space, to be subdivided through the administrative subdivision process to accommodate lot line adjustments, but not to allow reconfiguration or the creation of new lots. So very similar to the previous one we just heard. So this amendment, and you see a summary in your staff report. We had 3 applications to this part of the code. We worked with the applicants to merge them all to one, and that's why the last one was essentially taken off the agenda. We worked, so it'd be much easier to work through this amendment process for
When you say
everyone.
last one, Stephanie, you're talking about 2611?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yep, so
'Cause
that's why it was
There's a
removed.
12.
Yes, sorry, the forest conservation. Yep, but the one that was taken off the
The one that's
agenda.
redlined in our staff report
Yep.
is
Mhm.
combined. Gotcha. Thank you. Sorry.
So what it does, it allows property owners to increase does not allow, the NCD program allows property owners to lift development rights from a parcel, place them on another, all within the Ag and CS districts, and it's specifically for residential development. What happens when that development occurs, you have your non-contiguous parcel, which essentially is your open farmland. Those rights, development rights, are lifted and placed on your developed parcel, which is where your cluster subdivision is usually located. So it's lifting the rights from one, placing it on the other to allow a greater density. What this text amendment will allow, it will allow the open space on both the non-contiguous parcel and the developed parcel to be reconfigured through the administrative process. All that open space of both the non-contiguous parcel and the developed parcel are subject to all those uses in 18-1-12, like I mentioned in the previous, in the TDR, and they're subject to the covenants which are established when the time of the subdivision that's created. Again, this program is not utilized much more because of the septic bill, so we don't see many changes or much movement with it at all. Soil Conservation District did give the same recommendation as the previous one. As long as there's no reconfiguration, they have no comments to offer. And the same with the EDC. They did not provide comment because they don't see it in their purview. The non-contiguous development program basically is a method of conservation in the county, and you'll see it on the conservation lands map. But basically what this amendment does, it does the same for the non-contiguous program, but both for where you're lifting and placing the development rights. Essentially the same process, though, through administrative subdivision, changing the landowner and allowing multiple owners of the same open space. To that, basically staff is giving a favorable recommendation because it is basically keeping those open space acres and soils in the same exact configuration. It's not moving them, and that the deed restriction is still applicable to any new landowners. So with that, favorable recommendation.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Jones?
Yeah,
Mr. Thompson?
Just one, yeah. As she's pointed out, this was sort of a reconciliation. I filed an amendment on the same section on behalf of Mrs. Schaefer. Burry Parker here filed one on behalf of the Goodmans. And then I filed another on behalf of Calgray, addressing both the sending and receiving parcel non-contiguous. Originally, Schaefer's was sending, Burry's was receiving, and so we got together with really, Stephanie and Amy, and came up with what I've referred to as a reconciliation language for 3 text amendments, and that's what's really before you, which we would like you to consider rather than my original or any of the other originals. Okay, that said, I guess I should, Jeffrey Thompson, 124 North Commerce Street, Centerville, Maryland, representing Cal Gray and Queen Anne Land and Farm and Land. I've asked Burry to join me because it was a reconciliation. It was a group effort.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Burry Parker from Parker Counts in Easton, and I represent Jamie and Ann Karwecki Goodman. Ann is one of my law partners. And they reside on Dean Road. Their home is adjacent to the Meadows Edge subdivision, phase 2 of that. And their property adjoins the 150 acres of open space on the developed parcel of that subdivision. They wish to acquire approximately 35 acres of that open space to expand the boundaries of their home property. Currently, the way the ordinance is construed, any reconfiguration of the open space parcel had to occur during phase 2 of the development process for the subdivision. That passed, and without this amendment, we can't adjust the Goodman's property line through an administrative subdivision, and that's what administrative subdivisions are limited for, is adjustments to property lines between adjoining property owners. Those subdivision applications go through multi-agency review. It won't disturb in any way the deed restrictions that were recorded on the open space. This amendment will just allow for the Goodmans to move their property line into that open space with the same protections of those deed restrictions, and allow them to add 34 acres of protection and control under their ownership. They've had some issues with some poaching of hunters in the woods behind their property. They want to acquire that land so they can control it. It will not affect in any way the protection of that open space acreage. The open space deed of easement specifically says those restrictions will be binding upon successive owners of the open space, and they certainly intend to adhere and abide by that. So this amendment is necessary to allow these lot line adjustments. We're not creating new lots. We're only moving a property line after phase 2, which was interpreted as being the only time you could do this. So that's the purpose of the amendment.
I think it's best said by Stephanie and really both of the staff reports on the 2 amendments, that the one you heard before and the one you're hearing now. It just says, in the spirit of continued support of conservation of agricultural lands, with the continued application of deed restrictions, which is what we have, not allowing the creation of any new lots, which this will do, not allowing reconfiguration, it goes on to say this proposal offers flexibility which is consistent with the intention of the code. And that's what within the flexibility is in what I was describing earlier about whether it's a perennial stream or it's a ditch or it's just a common boundary or it's a road. It's just a way to be able to subdivide, recognizing that all those restrictions and the land encumbered remains the same. All we're changing is ownership. And that's really what this is all about. I have another example, but it's too large. I don't want to try to send it to your council. But in that case, Mrs. Schaefer, she actually on her property has both a lot of TDR and about 40 acres of non-contiguous. So she needs both. And on the non-contiguous, it's located in 3 different locations on the farm. But because you have to have 40 acres, we'd have to keep them all together. The configuration of the way I would have to subdivide that is just ridiculous. I mean, you ought to be able to cut the line where it makes sense. In her case, what we're trying to do is preserve all the farm field where her home is and where her granddaughter is likely to put an equestrian center. It's just, we want to keep all the agricultural land on that property, transferring to the adjoining property owner about 300 acres of other TDR non-contiguous. It just is the place that made common sense to cut the line. So it's no different than the example on our farm with the TDRs. It's all the same. When you look at Schaefer's, for example, you've got some that's shaded, that's TDR, and a lot of that's hash, that's non-contiguous. Bottom line is, all of that's subject to the same set of open space covenants. Shouldn't differentiate between the two. It makes sense to treat them all the same. But we had to do 2 amendments because they're 2 different TDRs in the critical area. Upland is for the non-contiguous. So that's why we had to do it twice.
Questions for the applicant? Ms. Moordock.
Thanks to technology and cooperation in the audience with Surveyor Jack Kirby, we were able to get all of the exhibits that Jeff Thompson just referenced to Lindsay, and I was able to forward those to John Shelton and Stephanie for the record. So, Jeff, if you would like to share those exhibits. If you would like to share those exhibits into the record.
You're right, I only did this because last year you wanted to see examples, and I wasn't going to show up here today without examples.
So you're clear to share.
Thank you. Your techie director took care of me on it.
While this is being passed around, any questions for staff or Mr. Thompson and co-counsel?
I have a comment, which is, in acknowledgement of Mr. Falstad's observations, this does make me squirm a little bit in that I really can't project out what the long-term ramifications of it might be, of this change. I can't see that there's any reason not to approve it because none of the encumbrances or restrictions change. It's just sort of this faintly disquieting feeling of unintended consequences. And I just offer that as an observation, and thank you for your indulgence.
Well, recognition of your comment, what you're going to have is, when you do the admin, an admin subdivision is between 2 adjoining parcels, you're going to have the admin. It's going to show all the restrictions on both parcels. There's going to be a note on there referencing the actual deed of open space easement, sending you there in the land records. There shouldn't be any question. I told staff we can actually require the deed to contain, a statement when the transfer is made that it is subject to those covenants. So nobody can claim they don't know. It's all of record. The Schaefer plat, if you have it open, this parcel is something over 400 acres, proposing to sell all but about 80 acres of it. The shaded area represents, the shaded speckled area represents TDRs. The hashed represents non-contiguous, sending parcel, non-contiguous development. So all of this area is TDR. This area here, this little area here.
Could you sit down and speak into the mic for our
Oh,
TV crew?
okay.
Thank you. I was not on mic myself, so I'm guilty.
Oh, okay, guilty. So you've got the larger 33.671 acre non-contiguous. Non-contiguous is required to be a minimum of 40, so we have this little pie-shaped piece down at the intersection, the apex of Corsica Neck Road and Sunset Drive. Then we've got a sliver going up the left side of the private drive going into the Schaefer property, and then we've got a piece on the other side of that drive. In order to subdivide that, it's a mess because staff considers that 40 acres to be one parcel, even though they aren't contiguous. So you sometimes have to fish up and pick up all those pieces and keep them on the one piece. And you can see as you get up to that one that's 3.076 acres, adding that piece out in the middle of nowhere to the bylaw, it just wouldn't make any sense. You'd also have to, Mrs. Schaefer would have to give up a part of her roadway because you're crossing that private road to get to it. It just doesn't work. The real intent here If you look at what, there's a line going across the TDR land that says proposed property line. You can see the wood line. The intent, what you'd really like to do is retain all of that open field as one parcel, which makes sense for farming operations and the like, because why have this 14 or 15 acre piece owned on the other side of the woods and the Byler farm? It makes sense. It's just a common sense place for the property to be subdivided, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. It's that flexibility that Stephanie referred to that we'd like to see, so that adjoining property owners can make sense out of subdivision. And like I say, it could be a woods line, it could be a perennial stream. It's supposed to say, this is just an example. But again, all these covenants, the TDR, underlying land, underlying restrictions, everything remains the same. I don't see there's anything to be fearful of, because everybody's going to be on notice of it on the plat. If they're notice of it on this plat, and then they'll have the notice when the new admin plat is done. So.
I might add that the same would be true in the case of the Goodmans' desire to buy 34 acres of a 150-acre open space piece that's covered by a deed recorded amendment of open space easement. When that plat is submitted under the administrative plat process, it will no doubt shade the 34 acres and have a note that it's subject to a particular recorded deed of easement. And so everybody's on notice. The land area isn't changing that's being protected. It will remain protected. All we're doing is changing the ownership of that dirt, so to speak.
Any further questions of the applicant or staff? All right, is there any public comment? I've got two listed. Mr. Falstead?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jay Falstead, Queen Anne's Conservation Association. As I noted, some of my comments here are going to reflect some of my earlier ones. I do want to acknowledge Mr. Thompson's emphasis on conservation. I get it. As I said earlier, I understand everything he's wanting to do. However, on this particular one, there are 8,000 acres in Queen Anne's County enrolled in the non-contiguous development program, spread among 124 different landowners. Once again, if you open it up for him, you're also going to have to open it up for everyone else. I've been doing this job long enough to know that sometimes the unintended consequences take years to ultimately show up. But I assure you, there's going to be an unintended consequence somewhere along the line here, and we're all going to come back to this point and say, you know, I wish we hadn't done that. So I just urge caution. I know I'm probably on the losing end of this argument, but still appreciate the opportunity to comment. Thank you.
Mr. Falstead, while you're there, if you don't mind, do you have any particular foresight? I mean, I'm asking you to predict, but based on your suggestion that there are unintended consequences, does one or two rise to the top of your mind that we should be particularly concerned with, or are they just unknown completely?
Anticipating that question might come up, I have racked my brain on what those unanticipated consequences might be. I confess I haven't come up with anything, but it's not the first time that I've seen this, where everything looks good on the first run, second run, third run, and it's years later when something else comes up. I just wanted to post my objection at this stage of the record.
Understood and
Thank you.
appreciated. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment. So in light of Mr. Falstad's comments, you know, it seems to me that he's applying the precautionary principle to the changing the lines of preserved land, that we can't see the future consequences of today's actions. I might also add that you could apply that same principle to preserving farms forever and not without knowing what the future needs of the county will be. And that's all I'm going to say. You know, there's consequences everywhere. We will all be guilty of myopia at some point. To me, I think Mr. Thompson, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. They've done a pretty good job presenting their case, I think.
Fair enough. Any other questions of the applicant? Mr. Pippin, I have you down for comment as well.
Again, Joe Pippin, Queen Anne's County Soil Conservation District. My comments reflect the same as ordinance 2609. I do understand respectfully what Mr. Falstad is saying, but again, as if there is no reconfiguration, I don't have a problem with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just add one thing. I do a great deal of work for Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. I also work with property owners that have mal-easements on their property, as well as Maryland Environmental Trust easements. All of those easements allow for changes of ownership of less than 100% of the protected land. You need to apply for that permission to do it, but that's what our administrative plat process or subdivision process is going to do here. Currently, you have a prohibition that you can never change ownership of less than 100% of the land area. There's no other easement, major easement holder in the state of Maryland, as I say, Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, MALF, Maryland Environmental Trust, all allow for this through a review process. That's all we're asking, is to have the same opportunity.
Anything else? Any other public comment? Anybody online, Bruce? No. All right. Hearing none, I will close public comment and open the floor up for a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, having considered the testimony presented and having reviewed the findings outlined in the staff report, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Commission make a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding citizen-sponsored text amendment 26-10 to amend 18-1-98 non-contiguous development standards to allow a non-contiguous and development parcel which is designated as open space to be subdivided through the administrative subdivision process to accommodate lot line adjustments, but not to be reconfigured or for the creation of a new lot. We further find that the text amendment is consistent with zoning and subdivision regulations, consistent with the land use article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and consistent with the comprehensive plan. And I would like to incorporate the findings of the staff report into my motion.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And no abstentions. Motion carries. Thank you.
Commissioner. Thank you very much.
All right. Moving down the line. Everybody's good. We've got to finish this up with the last one. Planning Commission sponsored text amendment. County Ordinance 26-12, Forest Conservation Act. Mr. Summers, Ms. Gray, dynamic duo.
Indeed, we're tag teaming once again.
Get out the house, didn't we? Yeah.
Right.
All right, we're
Saving the
pulling
best
up
for
the
last,
rear,
of
the
course.
last one. Okay, good. Still morning. Good morning again, Chairman, Vice Chairman Lee, and Planning Commissioners. Mary Ellen Gray, Senior Planner. I'm co-presenting with Community Planner Doug Summers. That even though the documentation is longer than last time, our presentation will be shorter. So to start this off, the Senate Bill 279 was a precursor and impetus for the current legislation I'll get to in a minute that required a study to be done by the Hughes Center for a statewide assessment of the forest canopy. And that assessment indicated that while the pace of the net forest loss has slowed, it did confirm that the forest conservation measures that are currently in place are successful in reducing forest loss. But then it also indicated that due to the Hughes study that new legislation, Senate Bill 526, which was passed in 2023, and H.Bill 1511, which was passed in 2024. The main objectives of this legislation was a state-level policy shift from net forest loss to net forest gain. It also strengthened, the objective was to strengthen the Forest Conservation Act, which is what we heard today, as well as other policy goals of implementing various programs to support sustainable forest management and growth. Where we are today, we had a work session last month where we went over the highlights of the proposed legislation, proposed changes to our Forest Conservation Act. We also have drafted the replacement code language, which we are presenting today. We presented that language to our DNR staff, which they reviewed and got back to us in a timely manner, which we're very thankful for. And they indicated that that language is consistent with the changes, the statutory changes, and that they would approve that language. So I'll pass it over to Doug to highlight the changes.
Doug Summers, County Planner. Just to highlight some of the more significant changes, there were exemption language updates, reforestation mitigation rate requirements that were changed, riparian buffer restoration updates. Actually, that's new language. There were changes to priority forest areas, updates to notification requirements, and fee and lieu updates. I can provide details on what we kind of discussed last month at the work study. Most of it's up here on this slide. Following a recommendation, the next steps include proceeding to county commissioner review and consideration, and also outreach efforts to citizens, developers, surveyors. I think we're planning a podcast with QACTV to get some of the information out, possibly some memos and such, so that's where we are now.
Branching out into new platforms, huh?
Yes.
Any questions of staff?
Just one.
If the public review process showed up some comments or would indicate that modifications needed to be made, would it come back to us at this point, or are we passing it on?
The recommendation could go either way. It's just the state's going to require implementation of this language. July 1st is a hard deadline, so it's
Understood,
kind of
yeah.
where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sylvester?
Is there anything in this thing that's going to prevent farmers from timbering their land?
No, it doesn't really make much changes to commercial timber harvest. You'll still have like the declaration of intent and stuff where you don't develop for that 5-year period and such, so.
All right.
Yep.
Anything else of staff? Questions, comments, or otherwise? Public comment, seeing no public. Nobody online, Bruce?
Nope.
All right, I will close public comment and open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, having considered testimony presented and having reviewed the findings outlined in the staff report, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding draft county ordinance number 26-12 to repeal and replace Section 18.2 Forest Conservation Act based on Senate Bill 526 and House Bill 1511. As found in the staff report dated April 9th, 2026, as part of the motion, hereby submitted for a vote.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? I have one question that I neglected to ask at the moment, so my apologies. But there's a note in the staff report on the bottom of page 2 about the fee and lieu rates.
In lieu rates, yes.
Can we get an update on its, in the first sentence of that, county commissioners must approve an increased fee and lieu rate and violation/penalty rate. Is there an update on how that process is to be carried out? Or when and if? Is that before the July deadline, June deadline?
That would be.
So it's not that they must approve the increase in fee, it's they are the body that has the authority to approve that change in rate.
So it's slightly.
the Planning
it's
Commission can't-
awkwardly worded.
Yes, so
Okay.
the planning commission can't approve any increase to a fee. It has to be the body of the county commissioners. But I understand your concern with the way that it is
Okay.
worded, yes.
But the staff recommendation will carry forward
Yes, to them to
as
make the
written in
decision.
the staff report?
Yes.
Understood.
Yep,
All right.
and we'll
thank-
change that language a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, there's a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. There's been a motion. There's been a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you so much for your time. A couple of housekeeping things before we check out for lunch is, I've been told by our esteemed clerk that the next 3 meetings, next 3 months, May, June, July, convenings of this body will be at the Liberty Building, Commissioners' Meeting Office, based on elections. So May, June, July, Planning Commission meetings will be held in the Liberty Room, in the building, excuse me, the County Commissioners Room in the Liberty Building. That is all I had. Anything else from staff or from council as an update?
Let me hit the right button.
For me.
Thank you. Appreciate your long-distance meeting attendance, Counselor.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to drag this meeting out any longer. It's been a long meeting, and I appreciate everyone's close attention to all of the text amendments that you've reviewed. I did want to touch upon the nebulous idea of unintended consequences, because I know that that's an area of concern. And from my perspective, I think that the fear of an unintended consequence occurs once there is one change that appears to be de minimis. That change to any provision in the code often becomes the grounds for a larger change. So I can see that because this board and staff and other agencies see that there's no harm in the proposals that we saw today as relates to those encumbered acres. I can see that in future, and it will be incumbent upon staff at the time and the Planning Commission and our elected officials to evaluate fairly any additional changes. But I think that the fear of an unintended consequence might be that there then might be some request to change that, to change the reconfiguration language, to change the locations of those easement areas. So it's a step down a road that has some safety nets around it because of all of our practices of due diligence and professionalism. But I believe that is, if I am reading the room and reading the concerns, that is how I see an unintended consequence, and that, as I said, it's incumbent upon us not to let that happen.
Appreciate it. And I'll take that one step further in that I believe, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I think, again, sort of because of what we do, is that you are one of our safety nets, right? You and your staff, Amy, are much more deeply involved with code, and hopefully, and I think sort of presumptively, we think and expect you to be thinking down that unintended consequences pathway as part of the process to get to this point, and that those would be brought up in a staff report or a stack if those unintended consequences are indeed materialized or recognized in far horizon events. So appreciate that, and we have full faith and confidence in your efforts and to get us to this point. But nobody's crystal ball is that clear, because if it was, I don't think many of us would be sitting here. We'd be sitting somewhere else. So appreciate everyone's attendance and professionalism today and moving forward, and look forward to seeing you all in May in Liberty Building. Anything else to add, John? Did I miss? Bruce, you're good online?
I just want to thank the staff for everything you do all the time, but today in particular, tackling and explaining some fairly complex issues. I thought, just thank you so much and there's a lot of work that goes into that.
I'd second that, yeah.
All right. That being said,
To adjourn.
The motions have been made to move.